So this week's Torah portion is Chaya Sara, and I love this Torah portion because there's so many interesting insights and psychological insights in this week's Torah portion. And it's also about love at first sight. So there's so many very interesting topics. So let's begin. The Torah portion opens up with a very interesting, sad passage. Vatama Sara. Sara, married to Abraham, passes away in this week's Torah portion. Yet, the title of the Torah portion is what? The life of Sara. So we always ask this question, and I speak about it every year when we come to Chaya Sara, but I want to just reiterate again because it's such a phenomenal insight that why would the Torah portion, which talks about the passing of Sara in the first passage, suddenly call the Torah portion the life of Sara? In the previous Torah portion, where it talks about how she gives birth to Yitzchak, how she has an open home, how her house is blessed, her Shabbos candles remain lit all week, her challah has a special taste, there's a cloud over her tent, a cloud of glory, a cloud of God over her tent. Suddenly, this Torah portion is called the life of Sara. And she lived for 100, the Torah says 20 and 7 years. And the answer is what is a person's life? How do you know if a person lived a fulfilling, successful, meaningful, impactful life? When you see it after they pass on. If the next generation, the children, the grandchildren, the people they impacted live on in their teachings and their lessons and their modeling of life, role model, then you know that person truly lived. Some people, unfortunately, they pass away and there's no remnant except their headstone because they never impacted anybody. They never did anything for anyone. There's no one say, oh, when I met Sara, wow, she changed my life. She taught me so much. She was such a role model to me. She's something so impacted me in such a positive way. And look at her children, her son Yitzchak, wow. So Chaya Sara teaches us how you live your life is what will be remembered when you pass on. We all know this Alfred Nobel, E. Nobel, who established the Nobel Peace Prizes, right? Anybody here won a Nobel Peace Prize? But anyway, how did it happen? When his brother passed away, and accidentally the journalist wrote an obituary about him. And they wrote the following: Alfred E. Nobel is the largest manufacturer of mass destruction in the entire world because his wealth came from, good morning, Donna, his wealth came from manufacturing arms, ammunition, bombs. He was a millionaire from that. So when he passed away, they said, who was he? The one who has created the most objects of mass destruction in the world, Alfred E. Nobel. When he read his obituary, he was so horrified that what will he be remembered for? Mass destruction, bombs, weapons. So he established the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, when you say Nobel, what do you think of the Nobel Peace Prize? You don't say, oh yeah, he manufactured guns. And good morning, Donna. He manufactured weapons.
I don't know
good morning.
I'm going to be able to say because I have to get into the city today.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So, Chaya Sara, welcome. Chaya Sara is the pivotal message. What will you be remembered for? Think about it. It's never too late. What are you going to be remembered for? What is going to be your legacy? What are you leaving behind after 190 years, after 150 years? There's inflation now. What is going to be your legacy? And the legacy of Sara lives on, as we see in her son and her future daughter-in-law, which the story will now unfold. But before we get to that story, I have to share another part of the Torah portion, which is very pivotal in understanding our relationship with the land of Israel and our inheritance. Avram now needs to bury his wife Sara. He needs a burial plot. So he goes to Hebron and he wants to buy the famous, what we call the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, where Adam and Chava are buried, Avram and Sara are buried, Isaac and Rebekah, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Jacob and Leah, Yaakov and Leah. 4 couples are buried. That's why it's called Ma'arat HaMachpelah, because 4 couples are buried there. It's doubles. And it also, the commentary said it had like a loft. It was a double-decker cave. So now Avram goes and wants to buy the plot of land. They want to give it to him for free. No. Avram, you're so famous. You're such a celebrity. We want to give it to you. But Avram insists on paying, and he pays prime real estate, 400 coins, 400 of the money exchange of those days. So that why? Why is it so important that he pays the full amount? Shir, please. Why do you think it's so important that Avram purchases the cave of Machpelah? Not only he purchases it, but he purchases it for an exorbitant amount of money. Who knows? Think. Why does he say to Ephron, I don't want it for free. Let me pay for it.
Oh, I know.
Go ahead.
Because this way he doesn't owe anybody anything. Okay, and he has it free and clear because he doesn't owe anybody any favors, and they don't owe him any favors.
Very good. So Avram gives him 400 shekels of silver in standard currency, and he takes it and gives him the deed. Why is this so important? Why am I bringing this important passages up?
Because this means this
Go ahead.
That proves that the Jews own the land.
Very good. Exactly. No one can later contest and say, what? They gave it to you for free. Where's your deed? You didn't pay for it. Avram, and it's documented in Genesis, in our Torah, in the Bible, that Avram bought the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. Now remember, God promises Avram every part of Israel to his son Yitzchak. But remember, his son Yitzchak did not inherit yet. Good morning, Carrie. Good morning. So now Avram purchases the Ma'aras HaMachpelah and he passes it on to his son Yitzchak, not to his other son Yishmael, not to his other sons that he's going to have later, as we'll soon read. And it's documented that we own the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. And that's where the matriarchs and patriarchs are buried, except for who knows who was not buried with her husband. Who's buried somewhere else?
Rebecca.
Rebecca's
Rachel.
buried. Rachel. Exactly. Hey, Rachel. The place in Beit Lechem, Rachel is buried elsewhere by her own choice. And we'll talk about that in that Torah portion. It's a very touching story, how she's buried elsewhere for the sake of her children. So now they mourn for Sara. She's buried in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. And now is the pivotal topic that we're going to discuss. The first matchmaker in the history of the Torah. The first time we have a matchmaker. Matchmaker, make me a match. Remember that? Okay. And also, we'll see how the whole story of the match of Isaac and Rivka unfolds, and many customs and traditions that we now have for engagement and marriage comes from this beautiful, beautiful story. So there's a conversation that happens, a beautiful conversation. Abraham tells his most trusted, loyal servant. Who was he? Who knows his name? Anybody remember? Eliezer. Eliezer. Now, interesting enough, we're sharing that it's Eliezer, but guess what? Not in one of these 67 passages, 67 Pesukim talk about the match and the finding of the bride for Yitzchak. Even the laws of Shabbos don't take up 67 passages. We have laws and laws and laws of Shabbos. How do we derive the laws of Shabbos? Through this hint, through that passage, through this passage. But the match of Rivka and Yitzchak, 67 passages. Now, remember, the Torah is not Herman Wouk Winds of War with 7,000 pages. It's 5 books that we read in the Torah. There's not so much of them. Here it is. I'm holding it up. It's smaller than Harry Potter's Sorcerer of the Stone. Yet God chooses to insert 67 passages about this match. Why? Not only that, we'll soon see how the whole story, Avram tells Eliezer what to do. And then when Eliezer meets Rivka's parents, Rebecca's parents, to propose the match, he repeats the whole story of how he ended up there. Why? He could have just said to the parents, and this is what happened. This is what Avram told me to do, and I'm doing it. 4 words. He repeats the whole story. So, to just whet your appetite, in this tale, in this story, is one of the most insightful psychological insights that we have. Beautiful psychological insight. So now let's tell the story. Who wants to tell the story? Anybody know the story? Okay, you want me to tell the story?
Yes.
All right, I accept the job. No one else?
Didn't he meet her at a well? Always.
Very good. Very good. He meets her at a well.
And she was very very to the animals and
Very
gave them
good.
water.
Very
Right.
good. Excellent. Very good. Okay, but let's see what happens. Let's see, how does he get to the well? Very interesting. So now Avram comes to his trusted servant. And remember, the Torah does not tell us his name, and I'll tell you why soon. The commentaries say, who's this trusted servant? Eliezer. And Avram says to Eliezer, and I want to read it to you with your permission. Let's go to it. Hold on a second. Because it's so beautiful to always see it. Okay. Hold on quickly. Abraham sends Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak. Okay? So he says to him, I want you to go to the place of my birth, Haran, Mesopotamia, a place of idolatry, just to refresh your memory, a place of unscrupulous immorality. I want you to go back there to find a wife for my son Yitzchak. Interesting. Where my family lives, he says. Okay? And he says to him, go there and find a wife for my son Yitzchak. Okay? Go to Haran. So now what's Eliezer's response? And the servant says to him, Ulai, this is a very important word, perhaps the woman will not want to go with me to this land. Should I return and come back to the land from which you came? Like, in other words, let's say I do find a girl, he says to Abraham, but she doesn't want to come with me. So Avram says, don't worry, go and find a girl for Yitzchak. Go to Haran and find me a girl. Okay, so he asks him, let's say the girl doesn't want to come with me. What should I do? Let's say I find the perfect match and she doesn't want to come to me. Avram says, don't worry, go. And he gives him a blessing to go. And by the way, Yitzchak is not going with Eliezer. He's not taking the bachelor. This is not the Bachelor show, where he takes the bachelor and they says to the bachelor, okay, go choose a nice girl from Haran. Yitzchak was not allowed to live the land of Israel because he was a very special soul. So Avram says, be insistent and go and find a nice shidduch for my daughter. So he promises him, he says, I'll do as you ask. He takes 10 camels, and he takes, obviously, if he has 10 camels, which probably he has 5 to 10 men, and you'll see why this is very important. And they go. And he comes. And he thinks, where should I go? Where will I go? I'm going to the well, because the well was a meeting place, like the marketplace. And we'll see many shidduchim matches in the Torah happen at the well. The well seems to be symbolic of very positive energy. So Eliezer comes to the well, and this is what happens. Another very interesting part of the story. So he says, Vayomer el Hashem. And he says to Hashem, I just want to read it to you because this is very important. God of Abraham, Hakreina lefanai hayayim v'aseh chesed im Adonai Abraham. Lord, my master of Abraham, please cause to happen to me today and perform loving kindness for my master Abraham. In other words, please help me find the right girl. So he arrives at the well and he asks God for a blessing. So the Torah jumps in here with something very fascinating. Vayomer, when you read it in the Torah reading, it's called the shalshelas. It's read with a certain note that connotes hesitancy. It connotes lack of confidence. Vayomer, it's read like this. Vayomer, and you'll hear it this week in Shul. Vayomer, something like that. Why? Why is it read with hesitancy? Because it's indicating what's going on. When you hear a shalshela, something is going on with the person who's saying it. Last week's Torah portion, there was also a musical note like this. When Lot is told to run away from Sodom, he hesitated. So in the Torah reading, we also read the tune where Lot hesitates because he's thinking, maybe I shouldn't run away from Sodom. Maybe you should stay here. Maybe it won't be so bad. And here we have it again where Eliezer comes to the well. And when he says, Vayomer, when he speaks to God, he has a subconscious, not even subconscious, he feels hesitation, he feels uncertainty, he feels a lack of confidence. Why? Because what does he say to God? God, how will I know if the girl I meet at the well is the girl? If she comes to me and offers me water, and as Carrie said, offers water to my camel, I know this is the girl. This is what Eliezer tells God. But then Eliezer has hesitancy. Why? He says, well, first of all, maybe I'm not allowed to use a sign, an omen, to find a girl. We know in Jewish law, even though this was before the giving of the Torah, Jews are not allowed to rely on omens. You wake up in the morning and a black cat runs in front of you. I'm not going to do any business deals today. Bad luck today. A black cat ran in front of me. I'm not going to trade my stocks today. I'm not going to do any sales today. People make omens. Thunder hit my car. That's it. Today's not a lucky day. Jews never rely on omens. Why? Because it shows a lack of faith in God. You believe a cat, lightning, a rock falling from a mountain is a bad omen? Don't you believe everything is divine providence? If you look at omens, in a way, you're negating that God runs the universe, but the omens run the universe. So that's why we don't rely on omens. So Eliezer is saying, maybe by telling God, if she brings me water and brings my camels water, maybe I'm using an omen. So there's hesitancy there, one. Second hesitancy, how does he know just because she brings him water and her camel's water, is that the characteristics of a match for Yitzchak? Isn't there anything else? Maybe she has to be a balabasta. She has to know how to cook and bake. Maybe she has to be scholarly and be studious. How do I know that this is a sign? Maybe I'm using the wrong traits. Maybe I should be looking for something else in a girl for Yitzchak. Second hesitancy. And the third hesitancy he's not even aware of. The Torah will later show us how we know it. He's hesitating because when Avram told him back in Canaan in Israel, go find a wife for my son Yitzchak, in Haran, he tells Avram, what's wrong with my daughter? I have a daughter who grew up here, who grew up under your tutelage, who grew up under your influence. She's one of us. Why not? Can't Yitzchak marry my daughter? What do we need to go look in China for a girl? Look in Europe for a girl? What's wrong with the United States of America? An American girl who speaks the language, walks the walk, talks the talk. But Avram negates it, obviously. She says to Eliezer, go to Haran and find a wife for Yitzchak. She has to come from Haran. So Eliezer is the devoted servant, and he goes to find a wife. So when the Torah says, Vayomer, that Eliezer feels uncertainty, this third point, he doesn't even know he's feeling the uncertainty because he's thinking in the back of his mind, maybe my daughter should be the one. Again, so he feels uncertainty for three things. One, am I allowed to sign? Maybe you're not allowed to use omens. Two, maybe the sign I'm suggesting might be the perfect sign. Who says? Because she gives water to me and my camel. She's the kala. She's the bride to be. And three is a subconscious uncertainty that he has. That, you know what was so terrible with my daughter?
I have, you know what, chicken, Steve.
Okay, so does everybody understand the point here?
Yeah.
Why he feels uncertainty and why the Torah reads it with that shalshela tune to indicate that there's an uncertainty and a hesitancy here. Okay, now fast forward. So Rivka comes, he sees a girl, and she sees a traveler, and she approaches him, and she says very beautifully, perhaps I can offer you some water? And the Torah describes, she has a pitcher on her shoulder. That's how they carried the water. And she lowers the pitcher and she offers him water. And then she says, and she sees the camels, and she says, and maybe I could also offer your camels some water. And he says, sure. He can't believe his luck. Exactly what he wanted. Now, why is this the sign that Eliezer uses and what really goes on over here? You have to understand why. What's the big deal that she gave him water in his camel? What's the big deal? Let me ask you. What do you think?
He thinks that as a sign that she might be the one.
I know, but why giving him water and the camels water is a sign she's the one?
Because
why is it considered such a kindness, so to speak?
Because given the climate and the choices of people, she stood out like a diamond as compared to everybody else.
Okay, so you're saying she stood out as a diamond because she offered him water and no one else did?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, no, I'm not negating your answer. No, I'm asking. I'm asking. Okay, very good. What else?
That's why I was thinking, like, the reason that Abraham sent him to find somebody far away was that you would know for sure that this is the one. It's not somebody that's right underneath your nose. It's somebody that was supposed to be waiting to be discovered. Like,
okay, she's waiting to be discovered, right? Of course, she was destined to be the match for Yitzchak.
right.
Very good. So I want to explain based on the commentaries what went on over here, and then we'll continue the story. You have to understand. I went to look this up. Let's discuss camels. They have a hump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know the story of why a camel has a hump. A camel has a hump because it contains fat. A camel can go in the desert for 6 to 7 months, without replenishing their water. Mm-hmm. And as they trek through the desert, the hump goes lower and lower. And then they have to replenish with water. And it takes a while to fill up and reinflate that hump.
A lot of work.
This is every camel. And that's the strength of a camel in the desert. That's why we use camels in the desert. That's why they use camels, not horses, like in the Wild West. So you understand what's going on here? He's there with 10 camels and quite a number of men. Now look what happens. She comes over to Eliezer, she says, maybe I can give you a little water. And your camels? Now, why didn't she say to him, oh, hi guys, here's my picture. Feel free to use it. The trowel is over there. The well is over there. Go fill up. When you're done using my picture, don't forget to return it to me. I live on 39 Tyrone Drive.
A lot of work.
There's 5 to 10 able-bodied men with Eliezer. He didn't travel alone. He had an entourage. He's Abraham's servant. He's not exactly a schlepper from the Lower East Side. He's coming with an entourage and healthy camels. She could have said, 5 men. I'm a girl. I'm a little girl. I'm a young girl. I'm doing this for my parents. I'm a shepherd. But here you have a whole troop. She doesn't even say that. She doesn't say, oh, can your fellows help me out? Here, let's give everyone a picture. She does it herself. And I calculated this. The well, according to the Torah, is not near the trough. Okay? She has to descend into the well. She has to bring out the water, put it into the trough. And to do this based on the size of her bucket, mathematically, 20 to 60 times. 20 to 60 times, back and forth. Now, can you figure out why he knew this was her? Now, why in her mind didn't she say something? Because she assumed if Eliezer took her up on the offer, there must be either he's hurt or his men are hurt or they're incapable. Otherwise, why wouldn't he say, no, my men will do it. No, I'll do it. The fact that he didn't say anything, her sensitivity was, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to do what I have to do. Now, when Eliezer saw this, he said, this is the girl. It's not just kindness here. This is a kindness and compassion that goes way beyond the norm. This is a kindness that borders on self-sacrifice. And this is what the Jewish nation needs. When somebody calls, they say, call me anytime for a favor. You call them, could you do me a favor? Oh, today not. The kids are home from school. Well, tomorrow not. My car is going into the garage. And what about Thursday? Thursday, I have to go into the city to see my mother. So it's not that they don't have a good excuse. It's just not bordering on the kind of favor that Rivka does. There's no excuses. You needed a favor. I drop everything. I'm coming to give you water. When you have that kind of person with that kind of compassion and kindness, where nothing phases them, they don't have every excuse in the book, even good excuses, that is going to be a future leader of the Jewish people. This is what a matriarch is. A matriarch is not just a nice, kind, sweet person. A matriarch is someone that goes above and beyond their capabilities and what is expected of you. And the norm, is this even normally? Think about it.
Well, it's sort of like the hospitality of Sara.
Exactly. And that's why she becomes the inheritor of Sarah's role, as we'll soon see. So now the story unfolds. So Eliezer sees she's the girl, and he tells her, I'm here on behest of Abraham. I want to propose a match to you. She says, sure, come to mom and dad. Let's go talk. They come to the house of Lavan, who happens to be her father. Besuel, who's her father, Lavan, who's her brother. And they come to the house. And now the plot thickens. What happens when he comes to the house? Besuel is the father, Lavan is the brother. I said that, okay. He tells them the whole story. He repeats the whole conversation with Abraham. He says, I am Eved Abraham. I am Abraham's servant. He doesn't even say his name. He says, I am the servant of Abraham. I'll explain why in a minute. He doesn't say, hi, my name is Eliezer. I'm Abraham's chief servant. I'm Abraham's second in command. No. He says, I am Abraham's servant. And Abraham told me to come to Haran to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. And I said to him, and I said to Avram, maybe the girl won't want to come with me. And Avram said, no, go and find a girl, go with my blessings. And I came and I went to the well and I saw your daughter, and he tells the whole story. He repeats the whole story. So the question is like what we said before, just to bring everyone back on track. Why does Eliezer repeat the whole story? Should he even be telling them that he said to Avram, maybe the girl won't want to come with me? Like, why just not say, I'm here? You know why? Because Avram sent me here. And I'm here to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage for Avram's son, Yitzchak. Why repeat the whole conversation? And Avram told me to go. And I said, maybe she won't want to go. And then Avram said, just go and get the girl. And Rashi,
Do they know who Avram is?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course they know who Avram is. Avram was from Haran. This is his family. So now Rashi explains what's going on here. Remember I said there's 67 passages? Because it is the prototype of a Jewish marriage, but even more, because it shows us a very deep psychological thing here. So Rashi jumps in and says, when Eliezer speaks to Avram back home in Israel, he says, Ulai, maybe the girl won't want to come with me. So what should I do? When he repeats the story and he tells Besuel and Lavan and Rivka's mom and Rivka the story, he says, a lie, the same root word, but he uses a little bit of a different word. A lie like telech, maybe she won't want to come. And Rashi says, why is now the word switched? The same word, because Eliezer realizes something very, very powerful. When he's repeating the story to the parents of Rivka, he realizes that subconsciously there's something holding him back from closing the deal. The fact that he wants his own daughter to marry Yitzchak. So when he proposed it to Abraham back home, he dropped it. In his mind, it was a done deal. But as he's traveling and he's coming closer to Mesopotamia, and he finds the girl and he comes to the house of the girl, he still has something deep inside subconsciously holding him back. He doesn't even realize it till he tells the story. You know, sometimes you repeat a story and something clicks. That's what it was. He realizes that something has been holding him back all along. The fact that deep down, he never dropped it. He still felt in his heart a doubt that he's going to find a girl better than his daughter. When he realizes it, he now confronts it, pushes it away, Rashi says, and now he can clearly say to them, listen, your daughter is the one for Yitzchak, I'm telling you. Before, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish, because deep down, subconsciously, he always felt his daughter should be the one. So basically, demons, ghosts, when they're in the dark, it's scary. But when you shed light on them, they dissipate. Subconsciously, the doubt that finding another girl better than his daughter was really holding him back all along, he just didn't know it. But when he repeats the story, Rashi indicates, he switches it, he says, a lie, which means to me. Maybe my daughter is the better match. A lie, mine. Maybe my daughter should be the one. Instead of ulai, a lie. When he accidentally, subconsciously uses the wrong term, he realizes what was going on all along with him. And once he realizes what was holding him back, he's able to work it out. You know, that's what it is. Sometimes you don't know what's bothering you. I remember I called my mother late one night. I said, Ma, help me. Something is bothering me and I don't know what it is. I can't sleep. So she went through anything that could be bothering. Is it the kids? Is it your husband? Is it your this? Is it your that? So half an hour of figuring it out, I was able to go to sleep. Sometimes something is holding you back. You don't know what it is. Sometimes it helps to tell the story, to repeat. And then it pops out and you go, that's what it was. Now I can move forward. So the Torah is sharing with us such an unbelievable insight. So many times, I don't know, I could so relate that this happens to me so many times. Something is holding you back. You don't know why. Why can't I make a decision about this? Why can't I move forward on this project? Why can't I make that phone call? It's only a phone call, but something holds you back. And sometimes you have to work it out and see what is it that really is holding you back. And that's why when he comes to Rivka's parents, what does he say? Ani Eved Avraham. I am the servant of Avraham. He doesn't say, I'm Eliezer. Why? The Torah shows us that Eliezer, what's a true messenger? A messenger is someone who is completely humbled to their mission. There's no personal ego or agenda. You're sent on a mission and you're there only as a messenger. You're not adding your own ideas. You're not adding your own questions. You're not adding your own sidelines. Oh, you know what? I'll stop on the way and do my own things. You're there to fulfill the mission of the one who sent you, Avraham. That's why he's chosen. And that's why it never mentions his name, to show us that how are you be a real shliach, a real messenger of the mission, if you don't put in your own ego, if you're only there to do your job, if you're only there to serve the purpose by which you were sent. That's a true messenger. Sometimes messengers get too smart. I'll take a shortcut. I'll go a different way. I'll go to a different city. Why should I go to Mesopotamia? There's nicer cities to find a girl. Maybe I should say this and not that. But a true messenger like Eliezer follows through exactly what his boss told him, what his leader told him, what his Rebbe told him, what Avram tells him. And he's successful. So that's why you have the Shalshelas, Vayomer, when he speaks to God, he feels in his heart uncertainty because he's really thinking his daughter should marry Yitzchak. Then when he repeats the story, the uncertainty and the subconscious desire comes out and he realizes and he puts it in check. And Rivka agrees to go with him to marry Yitzchak. And there's a very interesting little insight here where the parents say, 1 minute, we have to ask her first. So the Torah says, this teaches us you can never coerce a girl to marry a guy. The parents could say to the girl, you're marrying him no matter what you say. We don't care. We think this is a perfect match. Jewish law prohibits a girl to go to a chuppah if she does not want to. You're not allowed to force a girl to marry a boy in Jewish law. If she doesn't want to marry, the parents, strangers, the rabbi, no one can force her. It's against the law. It's not a legitimate chuppah if the person is forced or coerced in any which way. They have to go willingly. That's why the Torah highlights the fact that she's asked, do you want to go with Eliezer? Do you want to go and marry this guy Yitzchak without seeing him? And she goes, absolutely, I want to go, she says. And of course, she gets the jewelry. And in the next, and Eliezer sleeps over. Just an interesting tidbit in the morning, Besuel, the father is missing. The Torah doesn't talk about him. What happened? Besuel wanted to poison Eliezer so that his daughter wouldn't have to go. He wanted to take the money. So over the night, Besuel passes away. God takes his life. In the morning, love on the brother and the wife, doesn't say her name, Rivka's mother, Rebecca's mother, they send her off with Eliezer. Okay? So is the story clear? Clear what happens here? Okay. So now what happens is Eliezer is bringing Rivka back to Canaan. And they come closer and closer. And there's a beautiful, beautiful occurrence here. Rivka sees a man praying in the field. She's already in the land of Israel. And he is so handsome. And he exudes such a positive, beautiful energy that she literally falls off her camel and covers her face with a veil. And Eliezer says, yes, this is Yitzchak, your potential husband. Love at first sight. She sees Yitzchak and Yitzchak sees her. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, already they could see that they're one for each other. And the Torah tells us something so fascinating now. So that's where we get the custom of covering the veil on the bride when she sees the groom for the first time, right before the chuppah. That's where we get the custom. And then there's a very beautiful insight here that this is what happens. I want to read it to you. It says, okay, and Yitzchak took Rivka, she became his wife, and he loved her. Notice the way the pasuk writes it. And Yitzchak took Rivka, she became his wife, and he loved her. And the Torah says, what does it mean he loved her? It means he was intimate with her. And here we derive a Jewish law that before marriage, there's no Jewish marriage, there's no intimacy. No hanky-panky before the wedding. But more, it's giving us even a more deeper insight. That when do you find true love? Sometimes you meet your spouse, oh, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love. We're all in love. But when does the true love emerge? When you're married. Sometimes you meet a couple married 30 years, 20 years, and they say to you, I thought I was in love when I got married, now I'm truly in love. Because true love is the love that perseveres. True love is a love that's not here today, gone tomorrow. There's the love when you meet your potential and you're so excited and you're in love. Oh my gosh, my heart flutters every time he or she walks in the door. And then is the love of waking up to somebody without their makeup, without his hair slicked back, without her dressed up. And you look at the person, you say, I love my spouse, I love my wife, I love my husband. Because you truly know them. That, and you still feel the love and the warmth. It's not that like honeymoon love maybe, but it's a love that perseveres. So what the Torah is saying here on a deeper level is that true love is after marriage. When you know a person for many, many years, that's true love. You know the story, a guy takes his wife to the doctor and she's not feeling well. So the doctor says to him, you know, if you want your wife, and he sends the wife into the, no, that's the opposite. Sorry. Let me take a step back. The wife takes her husband to the doctor. And the doctor says to the husband, go wait in the waiting room. I'm going to tell your wife what she has to do. He tells the wife, listen, the good news, your husband can survive. The bad news is, this is what you have to do. Every morning when he wakes up, he needs hot oatmeal. You can't give him any stress. You have to pack him a beautiful, healthy lunch. You have to give him the most healthy, protein, energized dinner. He can't drive, you have to drive him everywhere. You have to do all the shopping. Your husband cannot take on any responsibilities. They go into the car, the husband says to the wife, no, what did the doctor say? She says, the doctor said it's all over. You can't survive. You can't survive, I'm sorry. So the Torah is saying us true love is one that after 20 years, you look at your wife, you look at your husband, and you feel a deep, deep, deep sense of love and loyalty to your spouse. Unlike and sometimes, and that's how it progresses, and that's the healthy way it should progress. And that's what the Torah is telling us. Now we know that there's love at first sight in the Torah. Here we have an indication of love at first sight. Rivka sees Yitzchak and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She falls off the camel. Adam and Chava, Adam sees his wife for the first time when they both wake up from the slumber. Love at first sight. Maybe there was no one else, okay? Then you have it later on. Who knows who else? Yaakov sees Rachel at the well. And what does he say? She's my future wife. Love at first sight there. So you have many stories in the Torah with love at first sight. So we're not saying it can't happen, but true love is one that perseveres, because sometimes it's love at first sight and that's what happens. It's love at first sight and that's it. It doesn't continue. It peters out. That infatuation doesn't last. So the Torah is saying it's great love at first sight, but true love is after the marriage. True love is after the marriage. Does anybody want to add anything or say anything?
You stated a little while ago about the custom of having the bride veil herself. Can you go a little bit more into that?
So the Torah tells us that when she saw Yitzchak, she put a veil over her face.
Right.
Okay. So the custom in Jewish marriage and Jewish wedding ceremony is a week before the wedding, the groom and the bride are not together. They don't see each other. They don't call each other. Separate apartments if you're living together and so on. And when is the first time the groom sees the bride? At the what we call the bedekin. The groom is escorted, remember, either by his parents or the two fathers, into the room, the reception room, and they hand him a veil. He looks to see the face of his bride and then he covers her. Why isn't she covered before he comes? Because of the story of Rachel and Leah, where, remember what happens? Jacob didn't know that he was marrying Leah because her face was covered. And he ended up marrying Leah, right? He thought he's marrying Rachel and he marries Leah. So the custom is, first the groom makes sure it's the right girl. Oh, you're the right one. You're not your sister, you're not someone else. They didn't do switch and bait and give me another girl. So that's the custom of covering the face. Now, the reason the bride's face is covered and not the groom's is because the Kabbalah explains that under the wedding chuppah, on the bride, the Shechina, divine revelation descends upon the bride. And that revelation is so great that were you to remove the veil, you could not, in a sense, absorb that great light. That's how holy the bride is under the chuppah. There's a divine presence rests on her during the chuppah ceremony. And that's why there's a new reality when they get married. Two halves become one whole. It's not only you stood under the chuppah, he puts the ring on your finger and then Barry gives the ketubah, hey, mazel tov. There's a new spiritual elevation and holiness that descends on the bride and then on the groom as well. And that's why her face is covered. And that's why, if you notice during the wedding ceremony, the bride doesn't say, the groom says, you are betrothed to me. The bride doesn't say, oh, well, yes, I do. There's no vows during the ceremony. Why? Because again, the divine presence is so holy that were the bride to speak at the point, the world, the crowd, the guests could not absorb that tremendous light. So she's covered because only she gets that light. That's why also by the blessing of the Kohen in synagogue, everybody know where the Kohanim cover their faces and no one is supposed to look, although people in the audience look away or cover, because again, the divine presence rests on the hands of the Kohanim. Were we to look, the Torah says you could be blinded by the light, physically blinded. The same thing here, similar idea, the divine presence rests on the bride in such greatness, she's covered and she doesn't speak at that moment during the ceremony. Afterwards, she could speak and doesn't stop speaking. You know what the guy says? When we were dating, I did all the talking, she did all the listening. Then we got married, she did all the talking and I did the listening. Now, 20 years later, we both do the talking and the neighbors do the listening. I want to share just one more beautiful, beautiful insight. So before Yitzhak marries Rivka, he brings her, it says, Ha'ohel Sara. He welcomes her into his mother's home. That's where he lives. And Rashi says, why Ha'ohel Sara? Ha, the tent. Ha in Hebrew is an word of emphasis. It's like what we do, quotation marks. Ha'ohel, hey hayidiyah, it's called. Hey hayidiyah in the Torah is highlighting something very special. So what was highlighted? He brought her into the tent. Oh, you want to see my mother's house? You want to redecorate it when we marry? You want to maybe buy a new sofa? Let's change things around. Why? What's going on? When Yitzhak brought Rivka into the tent, a miracle occurred. Remember, we discussed that when Sara passed away, the cloud of God that hovered around the tent went away. The Shabbos candles did not remain lit all week. And the challah did not have a special taste anymore. When Rivka comes back into the tent, Yitzhak notices suddenly the cloud of God reappears above the tent. And when she lights her Shabbos candles that Friday, they remain lit a whole week. And when she bakes challah, the challah has that very special taste of Sarah. That's when he knows she's the one. And then he marries her. Ha'ohel Sara. So step one, he meets her in the field. He says, oh, Mazel Tov, so nice to meet you. Come, let's chat a little bit. Come. He brings her into his mother's tent, and the three miracles come back. He realizes she's the one, she's the future matriarch, the next matriarch of the Jewish people. So there was a few things that transpired here before he marries her. The tremendous kindness and compassion that Eliezer notices in her. And then he brings her into the tent, and God shows him the signs. This is the one. Avram and Yitzhak see she is the one. She assumes the leadership together with her husband Yitzhak. Notice how there's always a partnership here. Beautiful partnership in the matriarchs and patriarchs. And why it's so important to notice the partnerships is these are prototypes for our lives. How we have to be partners in everything in our homes and in our lives. It's not the husband, it's not the wife, it's together. It's a togetherness. And Yitzhak recognizes this. And Avram recognizes this. And that's the strength of the patriarchs, that they know that it's the women who are the foundation of the universe. And it's expressed here, you see, in how they act towards each other. As a matter of fact, Yitzhak and Rivka have one of the most cohesive marriages of all the patriarchs and matriarchs. You don't see anywhere in the stories that they disagree on anything. It's amazing. Avram and Sara have a disagreement, remember? Sara says, we got to send Ishmael away. He's a bad influence on our son. He's going to kill him away. And Avram says, I don't know. It's a rachmanis on him. It's a pity. And God says to Avram, listen to your wife. She has it right. Okay? You never have that. Even when Rebecca, later we're going to hear, tells her son Jacob, go take the birthright and dress up like Esau, there's no confrontation between her and Yitzhak. Yitzhak doesn't say, what'd you do? Why'd you send me the wrong son? Yitzhak knows she's right. And with Yaakov and Rachel, you also have a little bit of tension. When Rachel says to Yaakov, why aren't you praying for me? I want to have a baby. And Yaakov says, what, you need me to pray for you? You pray to God. God needs to hear you praying. But with Yitzhak and Rivka, it's really a magnificent. Doesn't mean, by the way, when you argue with your spouse, it's a bad thing. It's saying that their cohesiveness was something unusual. And also you see how they complement each other. I want to share this also. Yitzhak never left the land of Israel. He was such a holy soul. He was never permitted to leave the land of Israel, even to go find a wife. Rivka, she comes from Mesopotamia, idolatry, immorality. Her father was a swindler. Her father was a ganef. Her brother was also a ganef. They worshipped idolatry, her parents. That's why she's called a rose among thorns.
Mhm.
She grew up in a family, women didn't have rights with the idol worshipers. Her father could say, I worship idols, you worship idols. I'm immoral, you're immoral. She never allowed herself to become part of society. That's what Yitzchak needed. A girl that saw corruption, that saw idolatry, that saw the viciousness of the world. That could be his partner in life. She'll be a good counterpart to Yitzchak, who, yes, he was willing to give up his life. Remember when Avram took him on the altar and he was willing, he didn't say, oh, Dad, you're crazy, I'm not doing this. So Yitzchak had that strength, but he again grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's like a prince. So Rivka is a beautiful counterpart for him because she knew what the real world was like. She grew up in it. That's who has to be the spouse for Yitzchak. So sometimes you think, yeah, it's the girl next door, Eliezer's daughter, who's better a match? A girl who grew up living in the neighborhood, knows Avram and Sara. He needed a Rivka, a girl that has that strength, independence, not to follow everyone else. It wasn't a compassionate society. She brings water. No one else. How come none of the other shepherd girls went over and said, hi, traveler, want a little water? Want to share an almond bar? No, it's Rivka. And 67 passages to teach us about the first match, a match made in heaven, but with a matchmaker. So this is Yitzchak and this is Rivka. It's like, I feel like when you read this, study the story, they really come alive and you want to be like them, you know? Sometimes after I read the Torah portion, I'm such a good wife for a couple of hours. A couple of hours, notice, not a couple of days. I try to be a better wife because I like, wow, you know, this is really something beautiful, something special. I want to close with the concept of why it says that the Chala of Sara was blessed and then the Chala of Rivka was blessed, because there's a beautiful insight. What does it mean that Sarah's Chala had a special blessing, a special taste? More than that, it had a special taste and a special blessing. The Chala was symbolic of the role model that Sara and then Rivka were. You know, sometimes you meet a very wonderful woman, Sara. She's beautiful. Sara was beautiful. It says, you know, that's why King Pharaoh tried to steal her away and King Avimelech wanted to steal her away. So we know physically she was beautiful. She dressed beautiful. She looked beautiful. Spiritually, she was beautiful. She had an open house. The doors of her home were open. She's married to Abraham, the leader of the generation, and very wealthy. God showered him with wealth. So what happens? You meet a woman like that, you become envious. Ugh, I could never be like her. And you leave with a feeling a little bad, like, oh, she has everything, I have nothing. When you met Sara and you ate her challah and you were in her presence, you left feeling, I can be like her. She left you with a feeling that you could be just like her. Her influence was in such a subtle, beautiful way. You never left feeling inferior. I'm less beautiful. I'm less well-dressed. I don't have enough money. My car is the wrong car. I don't have the right purse. You left feeling empowered. Sara and Rivka were women that when you hung out with them, you didn't leave feeling jealous, unsure, uncertain, inferior. You left their presence feeling empowered. I want to be like Sara. I could be just like her. And I think that is what it means that her challah was blessed. Her influence was blessed. You know, we read the tabloids and we become a little envious of the royals. They have it all. The royals, they never feel a drop of rain. The minute they walk out of their palaces, the umbrella pops up. Whereas how many of us became what we call rain rats. You know, you got caught in a downpour. Wow, if I was only one of the royals, I would never feel a raindrop on my head. But when you left Sara and you left Rivka, their tent, you said to yourself, I could be just like them. I'm also a royal. And it's interesting, there was one fourth thing that also reappeared, which the Torah doesn't document because it's not really about the feminine energy, but the doors of the tent now opened up wide. It says when Sara passed away, the doors of the tent kind of closed down a little because who was there? When Rivka came, the flaps of the tent opened up, the 4 doors. That's another thing that happened when Rivka entered the tent. The doors opened wide. Everybody can come in now. Before it was a little bit difficult because Sara wasn't there. So what leaves us in this Torah portion, I think, is a view of what makes a great marriage, a relationship. Is the love that perseveres, is the mutual respect, as the power of realizing that God is with you every minute of the day, and how important kindness is. Kindness without boundaries. Kindness that doesn't have always rules and regulations. I'll give you water, but you know what? For the camels, find someone else. And how inner strength prevails in a person like Rivka, rose among thorns. And also that sometimes we're confronted with uncertainties subconsciously. One hand is grabbing, the other hand is pushing away. That's why the Alter Rebbe says in the book of Kabbalah, book of Tanya, you need both hands to push away the evil inclination. The question is, why do you need both hands? Because sometimes one hand is pushing away, but one hand is pulling it in. The subconscious. Both hands means you're on it full board. Subconsciously, you reveal that which holds you back and you're able to push it back. This is the insight that we have from Eliezer. And sometimes you have to work it out. You have to say it. Why am I not able to follow through? I'm telling myself, let me tell myself my story. Eliezer repeats the story. He realizes what's going on and he pushes through it. And lastly, how do you become a true shliach, a true messenger? Where you push aside ego, you push aside what you want, and you do for the greater good what Avram wants, what Avram says has to be done. That's why his name is not mentioned. We know who he is, and that's why he's Eliezer. Again, Avram's Eliezer is not a housekeeper. He's not a custodian. So one woman asked me, is this the source of psychiatry? Well, yes. Last week we discussed, how do you know there's a subconscious? Because Sarah laughed inside. Kirba means that there's a subconscious. So that's when when you study the book of Hasidus, Jewish mysticism, based on the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Ladi, chapters on the subconscious desires, how we deal with our personality traits. It's a very, very wonderful way to study about Torah. Is the book of Tanya, book of Hasidus. I'm giving you just a little taste here.